everyone. I'm here with Ron for another edition of Ask Ron. Ron, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm good. We couldn't have better weather down here. Don't you feel sorry for all them snowbirds up there?
I know they're all trying to come down here.
What is it, in the 60s today here? Clear sky, just gorgeous.
Couldn't be better. All right. We have a few questions today, Ron, and I'll start us off with Fernando Diaz from Connecticut.
Hello,
Fernando, he says, I have a motivated seller with a pretty house. The ARV is 600,000, purchase price of 540,000, 0 repairs, and a PITI of 2,800 with a loan payment down for 800 a month and a 5-year term. Now he wants 55,000 as an option fee. Normally this would be a pass, but I have a cash out tenant buyer with 160,000 available and paying 3,100 a month. So there is a $300 spread. I have to do a sandwich lease because of the large option fee, and seller will not let me make that much money. My question is, what are good rebuttals as he wants to rent to buy directly with tenant buyer rather than an investor?
Well, first of all, we don't put up down payments when we lease purchase, period, much less 55,000. So if he wants 55,000, then you're going to buy it with owner financing. You're not going to lease it. So you probably screwed that one up with the words that came out of your mouth. So just remember, lease, no money. Buy, little as possible. Now, if you do have somebody that's got 160 grand and wants to move into it, I would most certainly, well, first I want to find out if he wants to sell it with owner financing and get his 55, because if he doesn't, game's over. But if he does, then I'd get the tenant buyer under contract and I'd make sure they know that you haven't closed on it yet, that you're about to. So I would not take their money. If I did, I'd make sure they know that I'm not going to deposit it until I get this thing closed. So you know you got a tenant buyer. And then you're going to have to really work hard to find an attorney that will close this thing and do a simultaneous closing. And if not, maybe a title company will do it for you. Since you are purchasing, a title company can do it. So a few details. First, go back to the seller, find out if he's in or not. If he is, then the next thing you need to do is go to your buyer, get them committed. And then from there, find somebody that'll do a simultaneous closing. That means you're going to take the buyer's money on a lease purchase and pay out the $55,000 from it. Now, that means that you're actually going to, if you're only buying it for 540 and it's worth 600, I don't think he told us what he's selling for, did he?
I don't think so either.
Okay. Well, you know, you're only going to make 60 grand on it.
Nope.
If they give you $160,000, then you got a couple of choices. You can take that money, but you better set that rest of that money aside, man. Because if they want to buy that property, and they probably will, you better have that money to bring to closing, because they owe you less than you owe the seller. So you're going to have to work out all those details. And maybe you could offer the seller more down, if necessary, to buy it with owner financing instead of lease optioning it.
Nice. All right. Moving on to the next one, we have Evengii from Nevada. Evengii starts off, the typical seller has a mortgage and equity, and they insist on the interest. One of the ways Ron suggests is to put a wrap where first or second mortgage goes into paragraph 2B of the PNS agreement. It seems this would describe the full note, wrapping the lender and seller portions. If there's interest number specified, it would then appear that the interest applies to the whole wrap, while the negotiated interest should only apply to the seller portion, and the original mortgage interest may differ.
The language is this. What's your name?
Evengii.
Evengii, write this down. The principal and interest payment on the wrap to the seller will be the same amount as the principal and interest payment on the seller's underlying debt.
All right.
Good. Make sure you use the word amount, not the same rate. Okay. So that means that you're paying 0 interest on the difference between what they owe and what you owe them.
Got it. And then he has another question following this one. He says, alternatively, if I put the only seller portion as a second in 2B, then how would I specify the first mortgage is wrapped, and would it mean?
Not a second. It's not a second. It's not a second. If you're doing a wrap, you do not have to break out the second and the first. It's all one amount you owe the seller, and it's all you have to put, and that goes on one, wherever it says owner financing. Okay, that's one number. So you got a deposit at the top, your earnest money deposit, $100, whatever it is. You got any more balance due at closing, then you got that wrap amount down there on 1G or whatever, and then you got the purchase price on 1E. I think it's 1F, if I'm not mistaken. So that's all you got. You don't need to break it out.
Nice. That definitely answers Evengie's question.
Hmm.
All right. And then we have one more, actually two more, but they're going to be the same question. Erica Shorb from Washington and Stanton from Kansas are both looking for good closing attorneys in their areas. How would you advise them to find one?
Well, the same way I've advised the last 200 times we've answered that question on here. that is, first of all, you ask around with investors and they'll tell you who they use if they use an attorney, and if they don't, you know, they're boo-boo. If not, worst case, you can just go on Google and put in real estate closing attorneys, and there'll come a list of them up, and you just call them and tell them I buy with owner financing, and sometimes I lease purchase. Do you have any issue with all of this? And if they're real estate closing attorneys, they shouldn't. If they do, they're not real estate closing attorneys, and you'll find one very, very quickly. And then you got to agree upon a fixed price to close any seller financing deal and to close any lease purchase deal to your tenant buyer. And I pay $500 on both sides. You might have to pay a little more. But remember, your tenant buyer pays it when you put them in. So you're really only paying one fee. Nice. And worst case scenario, you'll get a title company to do it if you have to. Don't blow a deal because you can't find an attorney.
All right, Ron. I think that's all the questions we had for today.
Yeah, well, that was easy. It was an easy week. Okay, guys. I hope you got 20, 21, and 22 in your calendar. That's our free summit coming up. Make sure you get registered for it. We're full now. So we got a little bit of room left. Get in there before it's too late, because we're just sending out another message. And we got some really, really powerful people speaking during that thing. So I guess the next time I'll see you, do we have another Friday between now and then? No, we don't. That's next week, isn't it?
Yeah, that's next week.
Okay. So we don't. So go register for that. And I'll see you next week, one way or the other.